Love me true. Spike sat reclining in his little pet bed in the castle, carefully weighing his options. In his claw he held 2 tickets to Twilight's royal ball in the following evening, and for the first time ever, he would be there as a guest rather than the princess's assistant. There was only one hitch in his plan so far, though. He didn't have a date. The answer should have been easy, and if there was a mare who showed any interest at all, even a little, he should jump at the chance, right? After all, how often did a mare interested in a little dragon come along? But in another shocking first for Spike, he had not only one, but 4 mares he believed had been flirting with him lately. It was a new experience for the dragon, though a welcome one, but it left him unsure what to do. Spike was left with a weighty decision, one he'd been thinking about over all day. First there was Rarity. She was the obvious choice, and Spike had been crushing on her for literally years. But that weird quasi-relationship had been running a winding course full of ups and downs, and Spike was just finding the prospect of the same old thing slightly less exciting now that there were new options ahead of him. Nothing against Rarity, of course, though. She was beautiful as ever, regal, successful, and she'd surely be the perfect date at a royal ball. More than that, she'd given Spike a kiss on the cheek during their most recent party together, and the thought of it was still leaving him feeling all tingly inside. Were in his many years of longing finally coming to fruition? In recent years, he'd also become close to a pony named Starlight Glimmer. While she had her issues and a very, very troubled past, she was one of the few ponies that didn't treat him like a kid. She was open and honest about her feelings and wasn't afraid to listen to his advice, which few ever did. Spike knew that he was her confidant, her dear friend, and recently he'd suspected that she might want more. Although Starlight had forgotten a friendship with Trixie, she'd recently been spending more and more time with him. There were more hugs, there were more laughter, and it was as if she wanted to move into areas more than friendship, and this ball might be the perfect opportunity for him to seal the deal. Then again, as much as he preferred to be treated like a grown-up, he was in fact still a very young dragon, which brought him the Sweetie Belle. Not only was she more his age, but she'd grown into a very intelligent and lovely young mare. She had a beautiful singing voice, a big heart, and she could even put on that regal air she must have learned from her sister. While they haven't been that close, and Spike didn't know a ton about her, she has also shown interest lately. She had been coming over to Twilight's castle, and instead of seeing Twilight, she'd come to see Spike. It was like she wanted to get to know Spike better, and had been more willing to share personal experiences. She'd probably be wonderful to chat with at the ball. Though on the other hand, while he was Sweetie Belle's age, he wasn't a pony. Now, he had a friend who was also not a pony, and she'd definitely show him favor. More than that, Ember was a dragon, just like Spike. She was queenly, a formidable ally, and was always trying to learn more about friendship. The questions she'd asked had been slowly becoming less about how to be a friend and how ponies worked, and more about personal matters. Were there better ways of showing intimacy than hugs? Were there different levels of liking someone? She'd also been sheepish when he'd given answers, and she was pretty bad at hinting things. But Spike got the feeling that she was trying to tell him something. Maybe that she had feelings for him? No matter how he racked his little brain, Spike couldn't figure out how to choose for his extra ticket. If he pursued one relationship, would he lose the others? When he tried to decide it logically, there didn't seem to be a right answer, and if he tired to follow his heart, he felt torn in all directions. He let out a long sigh and stared down at the tickets in frustration. He tried making a list, pros and cons, all that, but just nothing was working. He needed an outside opinion, so he decided to ask Twilight, but she was always so busy with preparations for the ball, so who else would he trust enough to turn about this? Who else knew matters of the heart well? All at once, he knew exactly who to ask, and he broke into a smile. What's more, she was staying right there at the castle, just a few rooms over. Spike hopped out of bed and practically sprinted out of his room and down the hall, then knocked soundly on the guest bedroom door. After a moment, he heard a call from inside. "Coming! Just a moment." He heard footsteps towards the door, then opened to reveal a slightly sleepy-looking Princess Cadence. She'd gotten into town the day before and was staying at the castle until the ball was done. "Oh, sorry, Princess, did I wake you?" Spike said sheepishly. For a moment, Cadence looked annoyed, but then she quickly put on a prim smile and smoothed her mane back into place. No, not at all. I was just napping while the baby slept, she said with a dismissive wave of her hoof. What can I help you with? Well, Spike started out. To be honest, it's a matter of the heart. At this point, Cadence gave him a knowing smile and stepped out into the hallway. She shut the door very quietly, likely to keep the baby sleeping. You've come to the right mare, then, she said soothingly. Tell me, what is the trouble? Spike took a deep breath, collected his thoughts, and then let it all loose. Well, I got these tickets to Twilight's Royal Ball tomorrow, and I get to be a guest there and enjoy myself for a change. Because of that, Twilight gave me 2 tickets so I could bring a date. But there's a problem. He began to pace back and forth into the hallway in front of Cadence as he spoke. There are 4 of my friends who I think they have the hots for me. At least they've been acting like it. Rarity and I have always been kinda close, but never quite together, and now she's been dropping hints that she's finally ready for a relationship. She even kissed me! But one of my best friends, Starlight Glimmer, has been spending more and more time with me lately, even though she has other best friends. She's been giving me more hugs from usual, too. Sweetie Belle and I have never been too close, but it seems like she's been trying to get closer to me recently. Like, trying to know me or something, and she is pretty cute. Then there's Ember, who's an actual dragon, and she's definitely been asking me some very intimate personal questions. She blushes a lot too, so maybe there's something there. Spike took a deep breath and turned to face Cadence, his spread claws in open bewilderment. They're all so cute and nice, and I'm not used to having any pony like me that way. Not even to mention 4 some ponies. I want to take them, just one of them, to the ball, but I don't know which. You know all about love, so what do you think? Cadence was silent for a moment, just looking down at the little dragon. Then, all at once, she broke into a hysterical laughter. Spike watched, open-mouthed, as Cadence continued to openly gawk and cackle, swaying on her hooves. At a moment of laughing, she reached up to wipe a tear from her eye and slumped backwards against the wall. The little dragon wasn't sure how to respond to this and just stood there dumbly as the pink princess continued to laugh. At last, her laughing dissolved into near sobs and coughs, and she stammered to find her words. "This is Spike," she said, still chuckling under her breath. You know none of them are flirting with you, right?" Spike blinked, shocked and a little horrified. Cadence went on as if she didn't notice his open dread. "Rarity kissed you at that party because it was Hearthwarming Eve. It was a celebration and you were under the mistletoe. She's always thought of you like a very dear little brother. You know that. Starlight had been hanging around with you so much because Twilight is busy, and Trixie went out of town, remember? She told us all last week. Sweetie Belle is out of school right now, and she's been trying to learn more about what it's like to work with royalty, since she's studying abroad in Canterlot next month. And Ember, she told me the other day that she thinks she has a crush on a dragon back home, and she has no idea how to tell him. She probably figured you would know how male dragons work better than anyone else." Spike felt tears welling in his eyes as he stared up at the pink alicorn. She was shaking her head, laughing between sentences, but when she caught sight of his face, she quickly stopped. Oh, you poor dear, you really did think they were all flirting with you, didn't you?" she said more gently. Spike opened his mouth to say yes, but it shut again quickly for fear he'd start to sob. Cadence frowned sympathetically and moved to sit along Spike. She extended a hoof and gave him a gentle hug around his side. Now he did allow himself a sniffle or two. "Spike, I'm so sorry," she said with a sigh. "That was terribly insensitive of me. I honestly didn't know that you were taking this so seriously. It just seems unlikely that you would make that many assumptions, but it was my mistake. I'm so sorry." "They're all so cute," Spike whined. "I just thought, for once, that a few cute girls might be interested in going on a date with me. I thought I actually had, options, potential dates for the ball. I guess I was wrong." He lowered his head against the pink fur and shut his eyes, and after a moment she pulled away from him, and patted firmly on the shoulder. He looked up to find her smiling down at him. "Well, I'll tell you what," she said with a nod. "I was a real heel just now, so let me make it up to you. I can get a really cute pony to go with you to the ball. Seriously, she's a real sweetie. You can? Spike said, perking up considerably. Cadence winked at him. You bet, she said. I can pretty well guarantee she'll say yes, and she's right here in the castle with you. Right in front of you. What do you say? Spike found himself smiling. Maybe this ball won't be so bad after all. Spike sulked into his bow tie and a little tucked along the side of the dance floor and watched all the happy ponies talking. Beside him was a lovely blue magical high chair, and in it was a continually babbling baby Flurry Heart. This wasn't what I thought you meant, he mumbled in the general direction of where Cadence was dancing with shining armor. The pink alicorn looked over at him a moment and gave him an obvious wink. Told you she was cute, she mouthed across the dance floor. Spike just glared at her, then over at the baby. Flurry Heart grinned at him and waved her tiny hooves above her head in excitement. She let out a soft coo of joy and spit up a little in front of her, sparkly bib she'd been dressed in just for the occasion. Spike just rolled his eyes. Next time, I'm asking Zecora for advice, he grumbled.